The doctors treating Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords said early on that she was responding to commands to squeeze their hands. Her neurosurgeon, Dr. Michael Lamole, says she's starting to move spontaneously.
Because it implies that not just those parts of the brain that process commands are there, but the parts of the brain that let us awake from sleeping, our arousal center, those are starting to work spontaneously. She's starting to become aware of her surroundings.
Giffords also seems to understand what she's looking at.
We're just starting to see those signs and her trying to track her gaze to wherever she wants to look. That's very, very encouraging. Again, reflects on a level of alertness.
Their concern over the next several days is the threat of blood clots and pneumonia. Dr. Jonathan Slotkin, a neurosurgeon at Washington Hospital Center, says pneumonia is the greatest threat Giffords faces right now.
Once we leave the brain swelling window, that becomes the #1 enemy.
In Tucson, Giffords' doctors say the next big step is to withdraw the breathing tube. Then they will know if the Congresswoman can speak.
The place that speech is produced and the place that speech is understood are actually slightly different places. The next question will be, have the swallowing mechanisms been affected that will allow her to eat?
Dr. Slotkin says Giffords will need extensive therapy, like that received by many U.S. soldiers with brain injuries. Her doctors say they have already started physical therapy.
The global picture here is going to be instituting a full sort of breadth of therapy. That would include physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and possibly and quite probably some degree of psychologic therapy, though even though she may not remember any of what went on, this is an extremely stressful, life-threatening situation.
Neurosurgeons credit the procedure that possibly saved Giffords' life, removing part of her skull to allow room for the brain to swell, to lessons learned in Iraq and Afghanistan, wars that have become synonymous with traumatic brain injury. Military surgeons learned that when they created what they call a window in the skull, more head trauma victims survived. Dr. Peter Ree, chief of trauma at University Medical Center, trained in those war zones before coming to Arizona. When Giffords sufficiently recovers from her injury, a prosthetic skull will replace the portion of her skull that doctors removed. They cannot say if Giffords will make a complete recovery, but the news so far is promising. Carol Pearson, VOA News.
While we still have hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants traveling, passing